what are some components of a winning mindset, of a mindset that would make for a successful, fulfilling life?
I think the first thing is, Sean, is that you have to change your perspective on the word failure. Like you need to be comfortable with failure and not look at it in the negative tone that it's often used, but look at it as a method of learning about maybe what didn't work and what you need to change. Like you're never going to appreciate like the good things that you're about to achieve and the things that you're going to succeed in your life. You're never going to really appreciate them unless you go through failure. And I'll give you a perfect example. And it starts at a young age. I assistant coach my son's baseball team, and
Great.
they're losing like every game. And the kids like don't understand. Like it's not like they're at a level right now where they want to win, but they don't understand like the value yet of losing, right? But in the beginning, it was really hard. But I think they're starting to understand that like when they do finally win their first game, right, they're going to really appreciate it that much more because they know what it feels like to lose. And not just that, it's also taught these kids compassion because now they know what it feels like to lose. So when the other team that they face does, they are more along the lines of showing more compassion to the team, more sportsmanship, and taking more like good solid actions that like and learning lessons as a kid that you normally wouldn't learn. So I think that's like one of the things is like learning from your failures and learning them as not as something as negative, but something that you can use to help you just get further along your journey to success.
That makes a lot of sense. Another one that comes up for me is humility, just like being humble, like being open to, hey, you're not doing some things as well as you could be doing, or you need to improve these parts of your life. That can be really difficult, hey?
Yeah, 100%. And the first thing I thought of when you said that was, responsibility. Like responsibility is a really important thing. Like you need to hold yourself responsible. And I think a lot of times the reason why we have the problems we have is that we're kind of deflecting responsibility from ourselves to somebody else. I mean, if you think about it, like if everyone took responsibility for their actions, talking from a law enforcement perspective, we wouldn't have the need for a court system, right? Everyone would be like, yeah, I messed up. I did
True.
that. Just give me my lumps, right? But everyone's like shifting responsibility somewhere. And that's why the legal system's making so much money for the states that they operate in. But it's really that reality. It's just like the humbleness, the responsibility, the not blaming others. I think once you can kind of grasp that, and it's cool to be a man and say, yes, I've messed up, or yeah, I wasn't my best today. Once you can kind of come to terms with that and feel good saying that and knowing that it's going to help you, that's kind of really where it does start.
Yeah, it's the first step is realizing, okay, I could polish this up. It's no different than being like, oh, my car's not working. I'm going to take it to mechanic. Then you can access tools that are going to help you fix the problem.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be able to fix the problem without admitting you have the problem in the first place.
Yeah. And you know what? That's why a lot of people, or a lot of men in particular, don't get involved with men's groups or don't pursue coaching or don't do those things. Either they just don't have the awareness that they have a problem or refuse to see that there's a problem or an obstacle in their way that they need help with. And they just don't pull the trigger on wanting to do anything about it. And then kind of just like struggle with, the way life is presented to them.
Yeah, and kind of resent how life has been presented to them.
Yeah,
and kind
100%.
of get upset about it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Interesting. What else do you guys need to know about, building a winning mindset? Like what other components are there?
I think for me, it's you have to be comfortable with holding yourself and having someone else hold you accountable. Like we all have these great we all have these great ideas. We all read these great books and see these great videos and get inspired. We could find inspiration, especially nowadays. Like the inspiration's out there. It's like, what are you doing like with that inspiration? Like, sometimes we feel like, hey, you know what? I saw this great video today. I heard this great podcast. I read this great book. And that's where it starts and that's where it ends. Like in order to really kind of develop that winning mindset, you got to be always a student. Like you always have to learn. You have to be in that learning mindset and you have to be willing to take action. Because I know a lot of people who've read a shitload of books and don't do anything with the information. They just tell me the books they read. Because I usually ask them, it's like, hey, well, you have a good book recommendation? I'm like, yeah, I read this book. It's like, have you done it? So what'd you like about it? Oh, I liked A, B, C, and D. Awesome. Have you used any of the information? Not really,
Uh,
but I read it. I'm
well,
like, oh.
I'm gonna get to it. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
it's going to get to it. And usually that's kind of like, no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. So that's a good example of somebody who might need accountability.
Yeah.
Could you share why we're talking about mindset, success, confidence, these kinds of things. And from what I see from guys coming to men's group, accountability is a big component of getting through these more difficult things because they're usually not done in a day. They usually take time, and accountability is a really important piece of that. Could you talk a little bit about accountability and why it's important and how you try to include it in what you do?
I really kind of describe it this way. Life for all of us is really a team sport. And what I mean by that is like, if we try to go at life alone, it's really hard. We're going to have difficulties. We're going to have things that we just don't have the experience on trying to overcome. And I think that's why it's important to find your tribe, find your like-minded people, find those people who are going to hold you accountable, but also give you that fearless feedback and help you get to where you want to get to faster. The reason why I mention that is because that's part of accountability, is having those people that are going to hold you accountable, or you hold yourself accountable. I think a lot of guys struggle with that. Like if you don't have the structure, which is really important in your life, you may not be able to hold yourself accountable. And you need that component in order for you to really achieve your goals. Like the start is really kind of, you develop that really good and positive mindset. You set some goals, you develop a plan how you want to get there, and then comes the actual action component. And part of that action component is like, okay, I'm going to do A, B, C, and D. Okay, who's gonna hold you to that? And when you don't do it, who's going to hold you responsible for not doing it? And I think it's harder for men to go to someone else and say they didn't follow through than it is for them to look in the mirror and say it to themselves. And I found typically that's usually the case.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've seen it in men's group, and I've seen it in my own life, in my own personal men's group, how even just like relatively casual accountability can make a big difference. Just knowing that guys are going to ask you in 2 weeks from now about it will often make me do the thing.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of that as well. Yeah.
Another thing I talk about, and you probably see this in the coaching space, men's group space, is about having skin in the game. It's like you need to make a commitment up front, because I think what happens is I've run groups before where I'm like, you know what, I want to get a bunch of guys together and we're going to do like a fitness component. We're going to have 5 guys lose 8 pounds in 8 days. Everyone's like, yeah, you know what, I want to, or 8 weeks. I want to do that. Yeah, let's do it. And then got the guys together. There was no charge or anything like that. It was just like, let's work together and do it. But I found that when people don't have a commitment, whether it be a commitment to someone else, as far as them publicly announcing or saying that they're doing this, or a financial commitment, it's easy for you to back out. It's easy for you not to perform. And I think that's also part of the accountability component, is having some type of skin in the game. Put something up front that's going to keep you honest, that's going to hold you, the other kind of like thing that's going to keep you accountable. So I think that's also an important component to accountability too, that if you're going to, maybe if it's with a friend or it's with a coach, it's with somebody, get that, somehow figure out how you're going to be able to make some type of commitment before you start, that, hey, if I don't do this, I'm going to lose this. Or if I don't do this, I'm going to have to do this. That's going to definitely help.
A lot of guys, come to you or come to a men's group in places where they feel down and out, or they're like facing some big adversity or some challenge that already feels really uncomfortable. And I've noticed that a lot of guys have almost like a gag reflex or like a knee-jerk reaction to the word accountability. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, that's, almost like that they begrudge it. Like, that's the last thing I need, is to be told what I'm not doing right. Or, so a lot of guys try to avoid accountability when they're in those places where they need it the most. What would you say to those guys?
I'd say, it has nothing to do with me telling you what you need to do. It actually is just a matter of me asking you questions and you coming up with your own answers, and you find out what you need to do and what you need to commit to. And I think that's I think when it comes to coaching and accountability and stuff like that, I think a lot of guys are like, why don't I hire a coach or have someone hold me accountable just to tell me what to do? And it has nothing to do with, I think in this space, I get into the habit of I'm not consulting someone, I'm coaching someone. It's a matter of asking questions. I mean, in the course of asking questions to someone, people come up with their own answers. They're like, aha, you know what? Yes, I know I need to do that. And it's more of like, I want to do this, not you're telling me to do it. And I think that's where the big light bulb moment comes. And that's really kind of what sparks change for them as far as accountability.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And do you find this applies to like accountability applies to different challenges equally? Like if some guy's going through a divorce and he's trying to recover from that in a healthy way versus some guy's trying to make more money versus some guy who's trying to set better boundaries versus some guy's trying to get over a porn addiction.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's just a matter of like the narrative around what you commit to changes, right? So if it's, you want to have a better relationship or you're trying to, get through a divorce or trying to avoid a divorce, let's say, maybe committing to listening more, being an active listener, being able to, improve your communication skills, just a variety of different things when it comes to that. So yeah, there's definitely a lot, depending on exactly what you're trying to, wrap your head around or overcome. It's really kind of going to be tailored towards those type of things.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the I just listed off a bunch of issues there. One of the issues that a lot of guys bring up in men's group is confidence, and just a lack of self worth. And I know that's something that you help a lot of men with. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on men feeling low in their confidence. How can they find their worth and feel better, feel more confident day to day?
Yeah, I could tell you a lot of men obviously struggle with that. I've struggled with that for a long time. I think you just have to start working at it. Like you would go to the gym, Sean, and build muscles and do that. You got to work at your mindset and changing your mindset in the same way. Like, you got to put in the reps. You got to be consistent with, finding the good resources that are going to get you to think in a more positive way. And I think really that's really the root of it. Like once you start getting into that whole growth mindset, place, it's going to really build a solid foundation to this metaphorical house that you're building in order to create a better life for yourself. And I think that's really kind of the key is just being open and finding the resources that are going to change the story that's been lingering with you for a very long time. And I'll probably say like most guys listening to this or watching to this, I'm going to probably say that the majority of us, like that story is completely false. But for whatever reason, we've latched onto it for a very long time. Whether someone told us this story or whether we created it or through an assumption that we made based on an experience in our life, like it's like letting go of those stories and learning that there's a better way.
How can guys think about how confidence can affect their relationships? Like in one of your stories there on Instagram, I saw that you're talking about you teach people how to treat you. So could you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So it's like if you're the type of person who allows other people to treat you negatively, and a lot of this comes back to self-worth, it's like people are going to get conditioned to treat you that way. If you don't stand up for yourself, people are going to continue to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with self-worth and just being confident and standing up for yourself. But it comes with practice. It's not a light switch thing. It's not like, hey, you know what? I'm going to walk in, I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and boom, I'm going to be the most confident person out there. But again, it goes back to the awareness component and being aware of it. And like, hey, this is something I need to work on. And this is something that I want to figure out because I know it's going to help me when it comes to my personal relationships. It's going to help me foster a better relationship with my wife, my kids, and my family. And it's going to, because you know what, in the end, like confidence is attractive, and it's attractive in a romantic relationship. It's attractive in a professional relationship. It's attractive in the relationship with yourself. When you look at the mirror and you see a more confident person, you feel better. When you get up in the morning and you're more confident, your spouse feels better about you, is more attracted to you, wants to spend more time, figure out what the hell are you doing that all of a sudden I'm seeing this difference in you. Same thing with family. Family, like, holy geez, like you left a negative situation. Like I'll give you an example. Left a negative situation on the East Coast, moved out to the West Coast. Oh my God, I've seen this amazing change in you. What's going on? Like California's done you really well. It's like, yeah, it's like proximity. I'm around different people. I'm in a different environment. I'm around situations that are more positive, and it builds that confidence and it leaks into other parts of your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And how can a man know if he's having confidence issues? Because I think it's one of those things that can like just quietly run in the background and can almost like be like how they think they're supposed to be feeling. Like that's how I felt with my low self-worth, right? It's like that was just my default from the time I was a kid. So I didn't realize that life didn't have to feel like that. So like, what are some signs that you might be struggling with a man might be struggling with confidence and might need some help?
Well, I think the thing is just, evaluate really kind of how they feel about themselves. Do they find out, do they
Yeah.
see the fault in things, or they find that they're being grateful for things, or that they're really appreciative for what they have? I think it's kind of taking an audit of your perspective. It's like, what's your perspective on life? What's your perspective on your life, your personal life, your professional life? Is it negative? Do you feel like that you're optimistic? Do you feel like you can achieve your goals, or do you feel like you're just kind of going along for the ride? Like, and I think when you feel like, hey, listen, life is kind of just happening to me, it's kind of one of those things where maybe you just need to say like, hey, you know what? Maybe I just need to focus more on building my confidence here, because I think maybe my perspective needs to change in order for me to change.
So Craig, you talk about success a lot in your media, and your appearances and on your Instagram. How do you define success? Because it's something that can be very broad term of
Yeah,
success.
100%. Well, a success for me is simply just being better than the person I was yesterday. If I could be
Hmm.
better than the person I was yesterday, that means I'm successful. And that's kind of a broad way to say it. But when I think about it, it's like, am I a better dad than I was yesterday? Am I a better husband than I was yesterday? Am I a better business owner than I was yesterday? Like, that's success to me. I don't want to, and I think that's really the most important thing, is just me being better than who I was the day before.
Yeah, that makes sense. What holds guys back from success the most?
I think simply it's just they've been either told the story, or they have a skewed idea of what success really means. They're having someone else define what success means to them. And that's essentially the why I started this platform on social media, at least with the Odd Man Up. Is it was just like I would go out there looking for information of to help guys self-development information for guys. And I would see the typical guy
Mm-hmm.
who was the serial entrepreneur in front of a jet, drinking some whiskey, long beard, telling
Yeah.
you that you needed to do A, B, C, and D in order to be successful. You needed to make a certain amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
You needed to own a certain car. If you're not making $1 million today, what are you doing? Like, I just did not resonate with that. And I'm not going to have anyone else decide what success means to me. It's subjective. It's my decision to decide. But I think we get caught up in keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak, or what's everyone else doing, and that whole comparison thing. And I think that's why I think a lot of guys are struggling right now, is that they feel like they need to make a lot of money. They need to drive a certain car. They need to wear a certain type of clothes or shoes, or do whatever to be successful. And that's not the truth. Like, success could mean for somebody, Sean, just getting out of bed today. Success could mean just like putting food on the table for their family. It's just, and that's why I felt like there was just a better way to resonate with men when it comes to success. And that really kind of what's birthed that platform on social media, but also just to encourage men to, find their own definitions of success and what you feel like you want to get out of this life. Because you know what, every day we're cashing in hours, days of our life that we'll never get back. Like, let's not waste it on these things that in the end may not necessarily be important to the life that we really want to live.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Do you have any suggestions for how guys can define or set that goal of the life they want to live? Because I remember when I was down and out, and when I've seen guys down and out in men's group, it's like it can be unclear. There can be a lot of confusion around what I actually want. I know I don't want these things that are happening to me, the divorce or the being broke or whatever. But like, I don't know, how can guys actually define their what would be success for them, and set that goal?
I would just spend some time figuring out what your why is. Like, why do you do what you do? What do you want to do? Like, what are you passionate about? And then when you realize like, hey, this is my why, this is what I want to give back to this amazing life that I have, or this is how I want to, show up for my family, my friends, or whatever it is. Like, once you figure out your why, that's going to really kind of develop the blueprint for figuring out what success means to you. And figuring out, I think that one thing that also accompanies your why is your values. I think when you define your values and what you stand for and what you believe in, if you can achieve those things, that really is going to get you to that being successful, right? And Whether you're a business owner, is it more about the money, let's say, or is it more about what you're delivering through that business that's really important to you? And is that what's going to make you successful? Is it just having an amazing family life? Is that, it's just a matter of figuring out what that why is, defining your values, and then taking some action.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And for me in those times, it was easy to let myself go towards distractions, or just like maybe even bury myself in self-improvement material instead of taking a bit of time and stillness. Like Ryan Holiday, Stillness is the Key. It's a great book. Talks about how all the great leaders and all in the world, they take time away from their things to get clear on what they want and what they need to do, um, so that they can then define that. Because if you just stay busy, you're not going to be able to, right?
Yeah, and that's massive. And another thing too is that it's okay if you're doing that, because that's kind of the narrative that's out there. It's like grind, 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 run, 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 do, get more done, work longer hours. That's the only way that you're going to be able to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve in your life. And people and men feel uncomfortable with stopping, pausing, taking a time to decompress, taking your time to walk
Yeah.
away from what you're doing with work or whatever, just to give that back to yourselves. And it really
Yeah.
is, it's an investment, and it will pay dividends. It's just a matter of getting more comfortable with wanting to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And blocking out the time to do that. And the more I do that, the better I seem to do in life. It's like that old saying, I forget who it was, some famous person like Benjamin Franklin, some incredible leader, said, if I had 6 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend 5 sharpening the axe. What he means by that is take the time to get clear on what you need, and to prepare for the what you need to do.
Yeah, again, that proactivity component. It's like, be proactive with your life, be proactive with your mind, be proactive with your relationships, and you're going to start to see some amazing things happen.